Hi, I'm Julie McLeod, guest host on Living 365 TV today. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365.
Hi, I'm Priya, host of Living 365 TV. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365. Welcome to Living 365 TV. I'm your host, Priya Ali. This show is designed to bring you real experts, real tools for real people like you who are ready to stop waiting and start living 365. I'm very excited to have a chat with this guest of mine today. Julie McLeod, political candidate, is here with us on Living 365 TV. She's going to share some exciting news as well as she's going to give us some insights on her and her life now in Oakville. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Priya.
It was so great to meet you. I've had the pleasure of running into you a couple of times now, and I just love your energy, just so natural and easygoing, considering that you've had a famous background, so to speak. You're just so well-grounded and just so easy to get along with. So a pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you, and you too.
Now, I know going through your journey in life, you, like all of us, have had some ups and downs. And one of the things we found that we share in common is our single motherhood.
Yes.
And, your experience had been one that was provided some challenges for you. So I'm wondering if you can, just help us get to know you a little bit better and let us know sort of how your challenges unfolded and how you moved your way through those.
Okay, well, I was married for a short period of time, and about into my second year of marriage, my husband decided he wasn't sure whether he wanted to be married, and we separated. And actually, I came home to an empty house. So this was pre-Facebook, that's how old I am, but pre all these devices and ways of connecting. So I didn't know where he was for approximately 2 months.
Yeah.
And I knew that he was switching careers and going back to school, so I would see him probably in September. I would know where he was. But it was a very stressful time. And when he returned from his I'm not sure what you call it, but he was away. When he came back, a sabbatical from marriage, he decided that he really knew that he wanted to be married and we'd be back together. I took about 3 months to believe that, and we reconciled. And lo and behold, my daughter was created. And he said, hang on a minute, that really wasn't my plan. My plan was to stay here while I was back at school because I really enjoyed the atmosphere, but it was not to be long term. So our marriage ended, and I was pregnant, and I was national sales in the sporting goods industry at the time. And so that I faced a lot of challenges and discussed things with my boss in Montreal, and we said, well, I can't continue on the road. And so I left that career. So I was pregnant and unemployed at the same time, and also on my own because my ex-husband had left, and he had left the country actually. And so I had a lot of decisions to make. And at that time, I stayed by myself for about a year, and then I approached my parents and I said, you know what, I want a stable lifestyle for my daughter. I don't want to be in a really stressful situation all the time. What do you think? And so we ended up sharing a house together, and it worked really well because my father was a very stable influence for my daughter. Nice. She's 23 now. She's on occasion seen her father, but he certainly wasn't an influence in her life, and I really didn't want her to think that relationships were disposable. Mm-hmm. So she didn't grow up believing that just because of the strength of my parents and our relationship.
That's fantastic. And, how did you personally, because we tend to go in as mothers, and when these things happen, and swoop in and
Yes.
and save the children first and take care of the children and make sure that they're emotionally stable, mentally stable, physically stable. But for you as a woman, how did that, affect you personally? How did you cope through that for you?
Well, I don't really know how to answer that. You just sort of forge ahead. You don't really I never remarried. I didn't really intend on not remarrying, but just circumstance or various relationships that I had didn't lend themselves to me going really that long term with anyone. And I think a lot of that was that because my daughter already had one parent abandon her, I didn't want her to think that someone else had moved in and she was going to be yet again pushed aside or on her own. So in that sense, I put her first and put our relationship first before any other relationship. And I don't want her to feel guilty watching this because that's not the case at all. It was a personal choice that I'm very happy with. And I think I just found careers and things to do. And when I say careers, you know, as a single parent, you are usually having to juggle your time. So nothing was ever really full time for me. But I always tried to do things that would allow me to have a stable income or, you know, stable. Well, acting isn't as stable, but just to allow us to have a lifestyle that wouldn't make us always, you know, in a panic situation. That we were able to live life.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that people maybe, misconceive is that after being married and when you have a child and as a single mother or a single father for that matter, that there is a void, that you feel a void of not being in a relationship. It's not a bad life at all, so to speak. Like,
no.
You know, so I think to kind of speak to your point a little bit too about a lifestyle choice and your daughter not feeling guilty, because there's nothing to feel guilty about. It's just a different way of living. And I felt the same way too, is that you don't know any other way. So people kind of ask that question, well, how did you do it? Well, it's like, well, when somebody drops you out of a plane, what do? You try and fly, right? You just have to grab onto whatever it is to make things work. And I know in you know, some of the chit chats we've had in the brief time we met, that you shared some of that with me, that, you know, some of the challenges and the things that you faced, and some of the doors, you know, there's people around that help us through these things. And I know that you mentioned that there were some people that helped you along the way to get through some of the challenges.
Well, one of my issues, or one of our situations, was that my ex-husband chose not to pay child support. So there are other terms for it, but I'll say it as politely. So that made it very difficult because I wasn't working full time. We hadn't really built a lot of equity in a home or anything like that when we separated, and so that I decided I was going to go after him for child support because he was a professional, and that's just his obligation. So I had a number of years of pursuing my daughter's father for child support, and for we had 5 agreements in the court. He'd pay for a little while and he'd stop and pay. And so I had a lot of legal advice for free from various lawyers. I have a very dear friend who helped me tremendously, and I did a lot of my own paperwork and things. But at that time, there weren't the resources that there are now in family law, that you can go to different centers within a court or something and have people help you fill out forms and things. So I was doing that, and what I found as I was doing it, I'd have people come up to me in the court and say, do you have any idea how to do this? And I think, oh my gosh, your child's future is now in my hands.
Yeah.
And so I would help people, and sometimes there was a language barrier or things, but I would help while I was waiting to go before the courts. And it taught me a lot of things. It taught me that I wasn't by myself in this, that there are a lot of people in the same situation, male and female, and it also taught me to persevere and to not take no for an answer. And, you know, the bottom line is, if someone does not want to be a parent, you can't legislate that. You can't force anyone to step up and play the role that they are supposed to play. So was I successful in the end? Not really. And so that, you know, presented its own challenges. But what it did do is give me the drive to go back to school. I already held a degree in English, but to go back to school and study paralegal studies.
Oh, wow.
And so I completed that in December of 2014. And I've worked within the court system, and I've also worked for a criminal lawyer, and I'm just finding which area is my area that I want to pursue on a long-term basis. So out of something bad came something good. It gave me an alternative because I don't have Meryl Streep's resume, so I don't have the longevity in acting that some other actresses have. But I think you always need to reinvent yourself, and I think you always need to educate yourself over and over and over. And so that's what I chose to do, and it's changed a lot of things for me, opened other doors.
Yeah, and to speak to that point too, being someone who has also received from within my community, my social circle, help, assistance, guidance, shoulders to cry on, and all of that. I'm also at the point, and I know you're ready to be at that point as well, is to contribute something back and to be able to help open doors or provide advice or help someone along in your own way now back to the community.
Yes.
Now, how are you planning to do that?
Well, over the years, several years ago, I was Miss Mississauga, and when I was Miss Mississauga, say that 10 times, I was involved in the community, always going to functions and being placed, in a position where people would say, well, would you want to be on this committee? Would you like to be on the Christmas fund? Would you like to help us with the games for the disabled and things? And I did, and I loved it. And I can't tell you how rewarding it was for me to give selflessly. It was amazing. It was the best experience. And from that, I relied heavily on people within my community in Oakville, within the political world, to help me in the court system and things, to help me with family law and things. And then I ended up campaigning, and I've worked on several campaigns at municipal level, federal level, provincial level. Mm-hmm. And so I was approached recently, and they said, you know what, there's a by-election, now's your time. Why don't you run? And I said, actually, I will. So that's the way I'd like to give back. I've lived in Oakville for 20 years, and I love it. It's changed a lot since I've lived there. And I think overall people love living in Oakville, but there are always things that people would like to see a little differently and would like some help and I think I can do that for them.
Yeah. Now, through your challenges, through your experience, through your path in life, what are the strengths that you feel like you've acquired that are going to help lead you along and help to lead the citizens of Oakville in that municipality, through whatever challenges they might be facing and help them out that way?
I would say commitment and determination. Both of those things have helped me through the past nearly a quarter of a century with my daughter. Sorry to say she's shouldn't have worded it.
Yeah,
like
we're
that.
Not aging ourselves anymore. We're aging the kids now, right?
But it's helped me a lot because it's taught me not to give up. And if there's something I really believe in, I will persevere. I am great with paperwork from being a paralegal, and I know that if something really matters, not necessarily just to one individual, because sometimes things at that level are more difficult to address, but if there are people that really want something done, then I can be that person, because I don't give up. Because I believe in the community, and I think that regardless of what your financial background is, what you do for a living, there are always times when people either don't have the time or they just don't know how to go about it. They don't know which door do I knock on, which person do I call to get something done. Yeah. And I've always been a go-to person for my friends and for my family, and so it's natural for me
to want to just extend that service to the community.
Yes.
And about being driven, I mean, single mothers are one of the most voracious and tenacious beings, I think, on the face of the planet. All mothers, for that matter.
Yes.
So you really are, extending that ability and that strength of yours to the people around you and the people that you live around now. That's amazing. So is that an announcement?
I may have something to announce.
Well, we'll see. But yes, definitely excited for you if that's the announcement that you choose to make, right? But, now, how do you think that will change life for you?
I think what it's done, it's almost been like a rebirth. When I was approached on this, I said, you know what? I've been sitting here for, I don't know really the length of time, but saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my talents, my time? my daughter is now well launched and in university and about to go on to postgraduate studies. And I'm saying, I need to do something that's really valuable. You can keep repeating the same thing and working at the same thing that you've been doing for years, but something that really utilizes my strengths and my time. And this is it. It certainly will be something that's full time for me. It's something that will engage me again with people who I enjoy, and being able to see results and being able to help the community is going to be the best part of it.
And it sounds like a time for you where you're engaging in what you're passionate about. Because we do go through phases in life where we're trying to meet our obligations, whether they be financial or time commitments to children and whatnot. And there comes a point in life, hopefully sooner than later, where you can actually start to follow the passion that's within you. And I know in spending some time with you that I feel like that's what I feel from you, is that you're in that space of actually following your passion, and this is kind of like your true calling. And I know for myself, having just started this new network, it's the same kind of thing when someone comes to you and says, hey, why don't you do this? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Did you have one of those moments of like, oh, I don't know about that? Or were you like right in?
For politics?
Yeah.
About 4 seconds.
4 seconds. There you go.
I tried to even play it down. Like, maybe you should run. Okay. It's, when you have an idea and a thought and you don't really put it out there not because of self-doubt, but because you think, if I start this, I can't stop it.
Yeah.
And I better be ready, and I better know that this is the right thing for me. And so there were a couple of times that we've had other by-elections, that we've had municipal elections where I've said, I really want to do that, but I don't think right now is the time. And now is the time. I don't feel that, oh my gosh, what have I done? I feel this is the best thing I've done.
Yeah. Now, how do you advocate for other people that are in that position of taking that step into something in life that, where maybe before it wasn't the time? How do you get that to that level of certainty? How do you get that sureness within you? How did that come for you?
Not to sound corny, but it's just there.
Yeah.
It's just, there have been a number of things over the years. I've probably spent maybe close to a decade saying, okay, you can't live hand to mouth for the rest of your life. You need to worry about, when you're older, you have to think about, what is it that's really you? I've worked in television and film. I've worked as a rehearsal actor. I've done lots of commercials and work in Canadian TV. I've produced my own short film, and all of those things have been wonderful. But like anybody else, I've done it for a long time, and the excitement and the fulfillment isn't quite there as it used to be. And it's just always been in the back of my mind, what else can I do? And every time I got a phone call to work on a campaign, or any time that I went to any type of rally or anything that had to do with anything political, I had a level of energy and excitement that I never, ever, ever had before. And I've worked with some pretty famous actors and actresses, and people say, oh my gosh, did you really meet this person? And that, oh my gosh, did I really meet this person and really have a conversation and really discuss something of value to me, has always happened in the political arena.
In the political arena?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not so much in any other area in my life.
Yeah, and I find that really interesting. I was talking about, I had attended the NBA All-Stars game with my son. I had the fortunate opportunity to be able to do so. And actually being in the building and just watching, celebrities walk around like Nelly Furtado and Kevin Hart and Sting, and like sort of just seeing them amongst. And I also thought that I would have more of a level of excitement around it. But I think when it comes down to it, not that they're not great artists or contributors, but life-changing, world-changing, I don't know, in some capacities. So for me, it kind of fell a little bit flat. And I just, you kind of recognize that they're, panties on one leg at a time, pants on one leg at a time.
Yes.
People, right? Like everybody else. Whereas I think what you're talking about in terms of the political environments is sparking that passion and that igniting that possibility of changing something, and making the environment that we live in a better place environmentally, but just in the community itself. Is that what you mean?
Yes, because if we speak about the most recent campaign that everyone was involved in, well, even, directly and indirectly, the federal election, we'll see someone like Justin Trudeau going from, come on, he's a high school teacher, or he's a grade school teacher, to actually becoming the prime minister. I think so much of that stemmed from the fact that he instilled hope, and he created a drive and an excitement in our country that has never existed or hasn't existed for a very long time. And that's what people want. People want someone who will give them that. People want someone who will say to them, you know what, I can do that too. Not maybe at that level or maybe at that level, but you can actually feel, you know what, things can change. Things can go from being humdrum or really terrible to great or amazing. And life changes on a dime. And I think that example of electing someone who has done that for Canada and put us on the map in so many different ways that we have never seen before can show an individual that you can transform your own life. Yeah. And it doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes it takes a very long time, but things do change, and you just need that hope. And I think that if you can bring hope to somebody, if you can say to them, you know what, I know this has been a really tough situation for you, give it to me. Yeah. And I'll help you. And can you guarantee to somebody that you can get the results they want? No, of course not. But at least you can show that they matter and what their issues are, or where they're really looking for guidance or help, that someone's listening.
Yeah, and I think that Prime Minister Trudeau definitely demonstrated a high level of approachability and accessibility throughout his campaign, and continues to do so at this point in time. So I know that and in our brief discussions, that was something that was also very important to you to maintain within your own, possible running here, that would be something that would be really important to you. Having gone through that was one of the reasons that that prompted me to want to talk to you and share this story of your own journey through the difficulties and the challenges through the court system. And there were some people that were with the political pull that were, as you said, not able to help you necessarily to the outcome that you wanted, but to be able to maybe guide you this way, or give you some direction, or hear what you were going through. And I felt that from you as well, because given the fact that you are an actress and that you have been in some, pretty popular movies and series and been amongst some fairly highly recognized celebrities, one might think you might have that air about you, and you just don't. And it's not, it doesn't take away from your sophistication or anything like that, or your intellect, or what you bring to the table. But what I find just so refreshing about you is that you literally are that girl next door kind of feel to you. And who better would you want to kind of represent you in your community than that person that you could kind of knock on the door, and I'm going to date myself with you along here, and ask for a cup of sugar, right? Do we even have cups of sugar anymore? It's like packets of Splenda or something now, I think. I don't even know. But
or it's metric.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. It's metric. So, but which I think is refreshing, that even today that there are people out there that are their roles are to help us along, but they're not as accessible or approachable as you might want or think they would be. And I know that was something that you discussed, and not only just discussed, because the lip service is great, but with that stereotypical politician. But I really feel that from you, that is an important part of who you are.
Well, thank you. One reason I think is I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised in a family that you were supposed to be successful and think about only yourself. You have to think about others. And part of that too is I've been the person who can't make those payments, who's had my phone disconnected, who's had various things happen to me, and I've been there and I know what it's like. And it doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean all the things that go along with a struggle in life. It just means circumstance, timing. So many things could be going wrong all at once, and that's generally what happens. You lose a job, and then you become pregnant, and then you become separated. Those things all happen within weeks of each other. The same thing can happen to other people. They can lose a spouse through divorce, through death. They can lose their job. They can have so many things happen, just even damages to their home or anything that puts them in a position where they're over their head. And it can just be that turning point of saying, I just can't face it, I can't do it. Or you just need that one person that can say, give me that piece of paper, I'll make the phone call, I'll do it for you. Because if you're at the point of being overwhelmed, who's going to help you unless you've got someone else? Not everybody has a family, not everybody has a best friend that, or just a person that can do it.
Yeah.
That knows, okay, what's wrong? Let's call this person. If they're wrong, we'll call another person, and if we'll get to the core of the situation.
And sometimes it's just the basic navigation through a challenge or a problem that sometimes you're just so closely in it that you can't kind of see your way through the steps of it. And it's just that person that can help sort of guide you along. And as you say, pick up the phone and make the phone call that gets you to the information you might need, or the form that you might need, or what have you. And that can just make all the difference.
Well, for me, a couple of things. When I had to keep going back to court and was receiving papers saying that we're going to have a variation of support. Again, are you kidding me? It's so expensive. It's so time consuming. And I'd phone my local MPP and I'd say, what can I do here? He said, you know what? I can't really help you in the court system, but what I can do is open my doors to my office. Come and photocopy, or come and use my office if you need space to do things, if you need to do any paperwork and things. You've got that. That in itself just showed that, first of all, someone believed in me, and also it got me out of my home. It's put me in a different atmosphere and helped me focus on what I needed to focus on. And I want people to be able to do that with me. I want them to, well, maybe not kind of, I don't have an office yet, but that they can come to me and say, you can't do this entire thing for me. I understand that, but where could you help?
Yeah.
And that I could turn to them and say, I can do this for you.
Yeah,
I'm good on the phone, or I'm good at this.
Yeah, perfect.
Can't really type that well.
So now you kind of got us teased a little bit with some really famous celebrities that you've been in movies with. I know we could all Google it, but just drop some names for us, Julie.
Drop some names. Okay. Well, I think my first big film that I worked on was Police Academy, before many of you were born. But that was a really fun time, and I didn't really realize what it was at the time. My agent called me and she said, you have an audition for Police Academy. And I was, the Police Academy? They're making a movie? Okay. And I thought it was a training video. I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. And I wasn't that well prepared for the audition, but when I got back to my agents, I said, that was the worst audition. You can't even imagine. And the phone rings as I'm telling her, and she picks up the phone, talking away, and I'm waiting. She hangs up. She said, you got it. And I said, really? And I said, how? I said, that was so bad. But for whatever reason, I got it, and that was very exciting. And then I worked on a few different Canadian TV shows. Again, I'll be dating myself. Bizarre, Wayne and Schuster, Second City, and then I moved to California for a year, and I auditioned for a lot of soap operas, and I had several callbacks for Young and Restless and General Hospital. And I returned to Ontario because I was contracted for a TV show, and I came back and worked on the show, and then I never returned to LA. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me to be that far away from my family. There was too much that I had to give up, and so I stayed. So ended up modeling, doing a lot of catalog work, several commercials, and whatever comes along. Toronto's not Hollywood, so people will say, what have you done? What would I know you from? And I can't really answer that because I don't know what people watch.
Yes, of course.
most of us, unless you have your own series, aren't as recognizable in Canada.
Yeah.
And I work a lot as a stand-in and as a double, and that's been a lot of fun, doubling for different stars. Julianne Moore,
Wow.
Jane Seymour. Okay, now my mind has gone blank. But several actresses. And when you work as a stand-in, a lot of people don't know really what that is. But even here, you need to set up the lighting, you need to set up the microphones, you need to run through all the scenes, how they will play out with the actors,
Yeah.
so that everyone's ready. And it's a thing that saves the actors from doing it, because it can be exhausting to set it all up and
then
act at
act
the
in
same
it, yeah.
time. And sometimes you'll be doing a scene such as what we're doing here, but it would only be you on camera, and that actress is under time constraints for whatever reason, can't be on camera. So I would do the lines for that actress when it's not her close-up, if that makes sense. So that's been great. I've had some really great opportunities to work with people like Jeremy Irons, Mickey Rourke, several actors, and be able to actually act and do scenes. They're not on camera, but I don't really care.
Yeah, right? Because you
know?
got the experience.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Now, is that something that you want to continue pursuing?
I would never say no, but it's not in the forefront for me.
Yeah.
As an actress as well, I served on Actor Council as an elected position for 3 terms. And that gave me an understanding of the political side of acting and how to negotiate contracts. I didn't personally negotiate them, but the collective agreements between ACTRA and the other unions, and working together with other actors who are dedicated to making sure everything was fair, as fair can be, and that everybody had great working conditions. Mm-hmm. So that I really enjoyed.
Great. So now you mentioned at the start of this that your marriage, your brief marriage, and then results in the pregnancy. Now, fast forward, bring us up to date. What's going on with your daughter? What's your life like now?
Well, my daughter, I was quite fortunate that my daughter, and I know a lot of parents say that, she did very well in school, and she started out in Montessori, and I ended up having the opportunity to put her through the private school system, partially on bursary and partially my own sacrifices and things. But she's now completing her undergraduate at Queen's, and she's written the LSAT, and she did very well. And so to pay for her schooling, she's now tutoring in all the different standardized testings, and she's going off to law school next year.
Oh, fantastic.
So
yeah.
she learned a lot,
She
I guess,
sure
from the
did.
legal area from me, but some things are just in your blood, and
Yeah.
I think with her it is.
Yeah. Now, does law run in your family at all?
No, not at all.
So you're creating a new trend.
Yes. Creating a new trend.
You are a
definitely.
trendsetter.
Yes. No, most of the people in my family are from sales. I have a sales background as well, and my father was in sales, and my mother, she worked as well as being a stay-at-home mom. I have 5 brothers, so I think that gave me my fight and determination.
bet.
Because people will say, "Oh, 5 brothers, you must have been spoiled." Spoiled? No. You know?
Kicked around and picked on and teased.
Right,
And...
it's like, no, you're a girl. Go back in the house. Do not come with us. You're not touching my things, and so on. So you learn to fight for what you want. You learn to fight for that corner piece of the cake that you want, or you learn to, say, it's my time in the bathroom. You guys are boys. Stay out.
Yeah.
And but of course, there was the princess side to life too.
A little bit, just a tiny bit.
Just a
It's always
tiny
good
bit.
to have a little bit of princess in your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how do you recommend, people that are going through challenges like that you faced? What are some of the tips that you would give them from your own life experience and how to handle those things, and more so about receiving help, because some of the things that you've talked about today are reaching out to other people, and I find that particularly in our North American society, it's very difficult for us to reach out and accept help. It's almost a lot of people find it embarrassing in many aspects, whether it be help with a problem or help with work or help financially or help with managing children. How did you feel asking for help and being able to receive help?
Well, I've been fortunate that I've had some very close friends that have offered help, without me having to ask. And what I think that I've noticed, or they've said to me, why don't you reach out to this person, or why don't you ask that person? I'd say, no, they know my situation. I'm not going to ask. If they haven't offered, I won't ask. And I've had friends that have pushed me and said, just ask. If you need help, ask. And it's worked because people aren't always aware of what you're going through. For an example, if you say to a friend, oh, I'm really broke this week, or it's all relative. Some people's idea of being broke is having 10,000 in the bank. Some people's idea of broke is having whatever change is in their pocket. So to tell a friend who perceives your life situation to be one thing that it's really not, you need to be clear, you need to explain and not worry about pride, because every single person's going through something. And one thing that my father always said, you know, again, going back to having 5 brothers, we'd be in the car and we'd pass a Mercedes or a Jag or something, and he'd say, oh my gosh, look at that car, Dad, get one. And he'd say, well, which kid shouldn't I have had? Would be the first thing. But also he would say, don't be so quick to presume that this person is where you think they are. He said, they might, you know, be just digging deep into that pocket every week to make that payment. They may not, but don't always presume what you see is reality. And that's always stuck in my head, because I know that situation. I've had people say to me, oh, come on, you're smiling, you're laughing all the time. Well, some people are better at just not necessarily masking, but dealing, or just dealing, you know, not bringing everything to the table. I think people need to know that life changes on a dime, and that it's cliche, but this too will pass. It always does. Yeah. And you just have to keep looking at things in smaller segments and forging ahead. Yeah. And then you get to the other side.
Yeah, it's so true. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, and he basically said it's like when you feel like you've been thrust over the side of the mountain, and you just grabbed onto a branch, and everybody's saying, you know, come jump, jump, jump. But what you don't know is that you're only, you know, half a foot from the ground, and what seems like to you is this big gap left to go. So it's really, you know, just understanding and trusting and having that faith that yes, you will get through it, you will overcome the challenges, and it doesn't always come as quickly, but you know, you will get there, and just take it one step, day at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what's the final word you'd like to leave our viewers with about you and what's coming up for you?
Well, the final word is that I will be announcing my candidacy for council in Oakville. There's a Ward 2 by-election coming up, and I'm going to be part of that election process. I'm going to throw my hat in and put every ounce I have into running, and I want to win, and I don't see that I won't.
Fantastic. Well, we support you here at Living 365 TV. I personally support you. And, you know, I look forward to seeing you doing great things in the community, continuing to do great things in the community. And I really want to thank you for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Priya. I love your show, and you're very inspiring, so it's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Viewers, you know, there are going to be times in life where you want to take a stand on things, whatever that may be. You don't necessarily have to step up and become a political leader, but actually just know what's important to you, and live your life with that importance and that awareness around that. And reach hands out. You never know, sometimes that hand that you reach out to someone, it could be literally saving someone's life. And also open yourself up to reaching your hand out. There's absolutely no shame in that. And all times we will all need help in our lives. And by breaking down those barriers of being able to ask and being able to receive, we actually create more of a community, which, you know, can't hurt us in any way at all. So I encourage you to, as I said, reach out for help and give help as much as you can. And also follow suit from people like Julie, who have gone through different changes. And at any given time, like, this is a huge change for her, from acting to, you know, going into politics, a big, huge change. And make those changes. We're here once. You're here once. Get out there. Do the things that you want to experience. Do them. They may turn out the way you want. They might not. But do them, because at least you know you've tried. As always, I remind you to stop waiting and start living 365.